Welcome to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristie Tobias. Joining me today are guests just striving to dominate in their personal and professional lives while answering the question, what does it mean to be fearlessly made? Hello, and welcome to Fearlessly Made You. A little different today, right? So I'm going to sit down in my special chair. So today what we're going to do is actually kind of walk you through behind the scenes. And it's just going to be a little bit of me, a little bit of the Fearlessly Made You production crew, and really just a lot of it, you getting to know kind of the work behind it all. And also, I have some fun new updates I'm excited to share with you. But first, in true Fearlessly Made You fashion, we cheers, we toast, we have a glass of wine. In fact, I think we have a bottle of wine waiting for us somewhere. Bree, where you at, girl? That's her. There she is. Oh, there she is. So we got Bree behind the scenes always. Thank you for always bringing the bottle.
Bring the plants.
I know. I mean, do we cheers just with the bottle? We cheers here. Yes, girl. Bless it. If you don't have some wine, get some wine right now. So we really wanted to spend some time today. You've had a chance to meet so many of my wonderful guests on Fearlessly Made You. You've even had a chance to meet Bree, which has been fantastic. And you got to know just like a snippet of what Bree and her organization, Social Icon Agency, does behind the scenes. But we kind of wanted to expand that a little more and just have some raw, open, just super vulnerable moments just to talk with you about what's going on. You'll hear some things going on behind the scenes because we just don't care today. Today, we're just going to have a little bit of fun.
That's right. That's right.
So Bree, one of the cool things that I do love as we're getting a little comfortable here is when we're like behind the scenes and we're like kind of playing with things, I think you have this vision and you have all of these things that you see, and I love that we can connect on that. But what are some of the things like that people don't know that's happening, like as we're like kind of right here in this space?
So I think where I'll start is that we're coming up on a whole year since this has started.
It's been a year.
So we're at
a year
as of right now.
Yes.
We're at what I think this is going to be our 22nd episode. So we'll see.
Yes. Yes.
But you have gone through a whole year of this transition and change. So we've had four different sets.
Yes.
And I think the first one was at the Pensacola Little Theater.
It was. Shout out to Sid Williams Heath. Thank you, my friend. So we did get to do the Pensacola Little Theater. And that actually, so it's funny. A lot of people, I don't think, connect the dots sometimes. And I have to do a better job at this of kind of where Fearlessly Made You came from. So as the reminder, it's the book. Shameless plug for the book. But the book launched February 12th. 2020, like so excited. I can't even believe it. And Bree and I were chatting and we wanted to do more. So Bree and I have been friends for a minute. And when we found our connection, we realized, girl, we with Bree's skills and the talent that she has, and you'll see Travis behind the scenes as well, who will
show yourself, Travis.
Show yourself, Travis. There he is. Travis is always back there. Every now and then, though, Travis will tell you a story, and it's magical. We may just have him tell you a story today. I don't know, but Travis is one of those people. We'll have a whole other episode dedicated to Travis. But no, Travis, like also like all of this work that you see, like with the camera angles and all that good stuff. As I keep moving around and just moving this way, boom. Boom, boom. That's like, Travis is just a genius behind it. But it's funny because when we first met, it was when we decided not only to do the book launch. So I did like a physical book launch in Pensacola, but we also did a big virtual book launch. And so that was really the first time that we kind of did a big event. And then that same day, we decided to film the first 4 episodes of Fearlessly Made You, the podcast, as a spinoff of the book.
A huge believer of working smarter, not harder.
Yes, that was a day. That was a full day.
You actually had another virtual event that day.
You did, because you and your team at the time were working on another event at the same time, which was amazing. But it's cool because I think too, so many times I get asked the question like, how do I start a podcast, or how do you do what you do? And I think too many times we tell you like, just get some great ideas, put in the work, but we don't actually show you the behind the scenes, and we don't show you like kind of the work behind it. it. And so wanted to do that today, just give you a little snippet, and we'll do this. Like we'll toss in a few episodes that are just these conversations. But what I think is so cool too is with, as Bree had mentioned, as things have evolved, and this is also why I wanted to just like have this raw conversation with you guys, the vision for Fearlessly Made You has continued to grow. And I think that's my favorite thing about it is there's always something more and something bigger. So you don't expect that you're going to have a Fearlessly Made You episode without a little bit of insight. There's always something more and something bigger, right? And I think sometimes we get caught up in ourselves or caught up in trying to do it, that we forget about just kind of living and being in it.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of this like organically kind of started to take place as, you know, the first 4 episodes were at Pensacola Little Theater, very true to podcast form, like a table conversation. And then we really went true podcast at your house, which was so much fun. We had a lot of wine at your house.
Well, and I think it is podcast form, but it's really important to myself and to Travis. So background about Travis. Travis is a video, audio and visual engineer.
Genius.
So I think the biggest thing for us is that there's a quality that exists.
Yeah.
And there's also almost an unreasonable standard of expectation that Travis and I both have for what this looks like for you and for us. And so I have this classic trait where we have an idea of exactly what we want. And then when Travis gets there, I go, can I have more?
Yes. Yeah, literally. It's so true. And that was literally this. So it was cool. One of the things, so y'all will see, like, as you're kind of looking around and, you know, again, purposely very comfortable. I really want to just lie on this rug, to be really honest with you. This rug is magical. It's the best thing that's ever happened in my life. But as you look around, like, there is a purposefulness. Like we made the purposeful choice to make this look homey and like a television show. Some of you may know this person that I'm going to mention, Oprah. And so
Who dat?
Who that girl?
Hey girl.
Hey girl.
Shout out.
Oprah, you see me? I see you. The time has come. But that has been the true long-term vision. And it's not Oprah. You know, I think Oprah shaped the way, especially for Black women, to really envision themselves in a place where people told them no. Because Oprah was told no. Oprah was fired from, her first like job where she was really in front of the camera and took it upon herself to continue to grow. And we're not talking about Oprah's story today, but we are using that as the pathway of, I want other people to see that this is something you can achieve. And it's not just being in front of the camera, it's the conversation, the ability to just kind of think differently, and not really know what's going to happen or where it's going to come from. And let's be real honest and get down to nitty gritty too. Like that's the work behind this. But that's also like, people are like, doesn't it cost money? It does cost money.
Time is valuable.
Time is valuable. And like one thing, and Brie and I were talking about this, she's like, do people actually like know what you do like outside of the podcast? I was like, the podcast, like Fearlessly Made You, is my dream and my vision. It is not my primary job at all. This is like, so when you think about like you spend, 80% of your day doing this, 20% of your day doing this, I spend like 98% of my day in my corporate job, and then tack on wherever we find the extra 20%. And that's where this comes in. Yep. So there is work. And I think sometimes, especially now, we live in this place of like, we must have instant gratification, or we must see the vision, or we must be an influencer and all that stuff. And not saying anything negative about that. But, I had, if you've been following the podcast, as you should be, we had Kate Waldo on earlier, and she had mentioned that she had to kind of like quit her job and go stay with her parents and refigure out everything. And she's made a name for herself in her organizing business. And some people may consider her an influencer, but it's more than that. Like there's a conversation around the work and the struggle that you have to go through to do that. The same here is I have a corporate job. I'm a corporate consultant and executive, or whatever you want to call it. I basically guide organizations on how to move through massive changes and massive implementations. And these aren't easy things. I spend a lot of time guiding people on how can I ensure that it's not just about me, but it's about my teams, and it's about the work that has to be done to cascade things that are going to be really difficult for people to grasp. But there's that adoption and that engagement that you have to connect with people on. That's a lot of what I do in my corporate job, on top of back in the day so I've been in this corporate business for over 8 years now. I used to write code very briefly. Like, code is a strong word for it. I did financial implementations. I did not enjoy it. Like, those of you that are watching that know me and that know that background, it was terrible for me. I am not a numbers person. I'm not a person that sits still and like writes a lot of different, Excel value formulas and all that stuff. But I learned how, and I actually had come from a background of understanding how to do that because I knew that there was bigger opportunities. And so all of that to say, I spend most of my time working in a corporate America field where there aren't a lot of Black women. And I do that on purpose because I love it, but also it's a pathway. So we talked about Oprah before. It's a pathway. I'm showing other people that there's a pathway, and this is also a pathway. And I know there's such beauty that's coming out of this, but I think Bree too, like we were talking about your story, it's just important for us to really kind of dive into what you're seeing isn't easy. There's a lot of work behind it.
So production is my full-time job, which is why this works so well.
It really is. What I'm not doing, Bree is doing.
Well, and it's a team effort, right? So I sit with Kristie in the visionary portion of it, and we discuss what we think we would like, and then we relay that to Travis, and Travis kind of builds the set. He builds out what it's going to look like, and then the other part, right?
The magic, this plant.
Yes. This plant is real. Thank you.
It is a real plant.
I nurture it.
Just like this wine is real. We have not been drinking all day.
You don't even know what time of day it is.
Who are we? Where are we? Moving on.
You'll never know.
You'll never know. But yeah, there is a set build too. Like everything here, and you talk more about it for sure. Like there was an entire day that went into it, like you were saying, just to pull all of this up. There's a day before this, and then today is an entire day. We film multiple episodes in a day. So there are some podcast studios, or I should say podcasters, that will film kind of every week. With the whole conversation that I was saying earlier, I have a corporate full-time job where I can't film that frequently, nor would I want to. But also, Bree's full-time job would never allow her to be able to do that. Like, this was a little bit of our vision together, coming together and doing something a little new and fresh. Yes. And so we're both kind of hanging out on a limb.
Well, and I think if you're going to get into podcasts, you get so much better to what people call bulk posts. So, we film 6 episodes. You do a great job of, writing something about the episode in a sheet that we have really meticulously planned.
And then tweak it to make it fancy.
Yes. And so about planning ahead, filming 6 episodes, making sure that we get all that. Travis edits all that.
Travis!
And then after he edits everything, we go into copy editing, and then there's the graphics and scheduling. So there's like a specific system that we build to make sure that happens in the right way. But it's a system that works for us. Now it took some, feeling out. And I think that because you're in a corporate job, it's easy for you to get those things done. Yeah. Because the key to something like this is consistency.
Yes.
Because let's get some truth out here. In all honesty, I started a podcast over COVID. It was called The Swivel.
Oh, that's a different one.
I filmed 1 episode and then never filmed it again.
What was she swiveling?
It was kind of like on a coin of the pivot, but we didn't like the word pivot, so we did the swivel. And it was a beautiful episode, but because there just wasn't enough time and I had so much other things going on, I didn't stay consistent with it.
That's fair.
So if you're going to plan something, plan it ahead of time with 6 episodes. Because I think I started with the idea of I'm going to have 1, and then I'll do 1 every month, but it didn't work that way. So sometimes you just have to plan ahead of, let's get at least 4 to 6 filmed.
We're getting low. Keep going.
4 to 6 filmed, and then get that scheduled and bulk scheduled. But
no, that makes sense. But it's also ignore the splashing. I promise Day. Evening. Afternoon.
It's
I don't even know.
it's a time right now, and there's a 1 in it, but we don't know which.
We don't know. Also, in France, this would be my breakfast wine. So
You just told them this.
I know I did just tell you. I couldn't.
Travis, tell us what it's been like for you working with us.
Yes, he loves it.
Oh, you ladies wanted a time check. It's 10:15.
Oh, it's 15 minutes. Yeah, we're doing good.
We're doing great.
Yeah.
Has it been 15 minutes or has it been 7 minutes?
He's just going to tell us when there's 5 minutes left.
How fast do you think you've gone through a glass of wine?
I don't know. I'm scared to know.
These are not things we need to know.
No, we're just going to let it be. We're going to let it live its best life. And I do want, Travis, I want you to share like a lot more about like what you see and what you feel. But it's funny because the other part of the podcast is we have kind of a time limit that we look at just because we could talk for hours, right? Mm-hmm. But we want to make sure that you, as a Fearlessly Made You crew, are getting the best information, having the best time. As you can tell, we always want to have a little bit of fun. And so Travis helps support that. What y'all don't see behind the scenes is he's giving me like fingers that are saying, okay, it's been like 15 minutes or okay, you've got 2 minutes left. So I'm always like kind of paying attention because he helps signal me of like, you've been talking too much. Please switch topics.
Girl, wrap it up.
Ramp it up. But Travis, tell us what it's like for you behind the scenes, living your best life here.
Don't get all excited all at once.
I know, he's so
calm down over there.
Excited.
Someone here has to be quiet. And I want the audience to guess who that needs to be.
Me.
Yeah. We're drinking.
Those are
so
what
we're
liars
very
look like. That's that right there. No. And now they can see this is the first they got one.
That's the one.
There we go. That's how that works.
We made some news. Oh, fun fact too of where we are filming. We are filming in Hellcat Hangar.
Yes.
Which is amazing. Mm-hmm. So if you can kind of see, like we talked about, like there's lots of setup, but what you're not seeing right now, we may or may not, I don't know, pan to it at some point. I don't know. Who knows what happens? But it's an old hangar that used to exist and carry planes or house planes.
So cool thing about the hangar is that it was originally a hangar for airplanes. And then after that, it was turned into a bar called Barrels.
Where is that bar now?
Right here. So it used to be called Barrels. And when I talk to people who are in probably like their 60s and 70s, when I talk about the old Barrels bar, they're like, oh, that place was up to no good.
Yes. We have. So told you there were some new updates, right? We are recreating Barrels bar. And we are up to no good. Just kidding. That's not really the update. But it's cool because there's also, what is it called? The Army Surplus store?
Yes.
That's next
it's called, so this hangar it looks like an aluminum can.
It's pretty awesome.
And so the military surplus store is called a tin hut.
It's magical.
Right.
And it's so funny because when you're coming here, like it's quote unquote, and I say this with quotes on purpose, unassuming. Yeah, you're going to check the door. There's so much happening. Oh, we've got some costumes too, don't you worry. But it's unassuming because you can't really tell. Like there's this actual studio in here, and then there's actual options in here. And sometimes, and this is literally what we'll do, like while I'm talking to people, sometimes you'll just put on a little massive helmet because it exists there, but it's part of the military surplus store that does exist. But it's cool because we're repurposing local, right? And that's the other part of it is oftentimes people ask me like, why are you in Pensacola? Why do you stay here? So I'm originally from North Carolina. For those of you that don't know, told you, you're going to get to know a little bit about me. And growing up in North Carolina, I loved it. Of course, I went to grad school there, worked there for a while, and then had an opportunity to move into consulting with a corporation and move to Pensacola. And I've been here now like almost 9 years now that I think about it. And I can't.
Can I be honest? I can't hear a thing.
I know you can't hear anything. I love that she's like shaking her head. She's like, oh no. Your hair still looks great. How is that possible? Oh my gosh. Also things that we've gone through is iterations of hair. Right?
Oh yes.
Girl. But I digress and then we'll go back to the hair conversation. But moving to Pensacola, I had the opportunity to, one of my mentors, and I've mentioned it before on shows, Quint, has been just amazing mentor and friend to me. But one of the things that we talked about was in Pensacola, there's pockets of representation, but there's not enough representation where we visibly, as a Black woman, as a person of color, see yourself. And I know Bree also has conversation around that story as well. See ourselves in whether it's leadership settings within this community. And so Quentin and I had a conversation because I had a chance to move back to North Carolina, and he asked me if I would consider staying in Pensacola to help support uplifting young voices. And not to say that I am the voice of any person of color or the voice of women or anything like that, but I am a voice, and I use it a lot.
Well, and I think that there's a point to that, because I think even in some of our conversations, so shameless plug, Fearlessly Made You is on Stream Moco. Check it out.
What was that she said? Don't you worry. We're about to tell you more about that.
But I think something that was happening is we're really selective about where Fearlessly Made You goes. We really want to make sure wherever it goes, it's an inclusive platform.
Yep. Yeah.
And so when Stream Moco approached us, that was a concern of Kristie's. And I think what was really interesting to me is that we are automatic, because we're in the South, it was an automatic default to assume that there may not be inclusivity, but a lot of people at Stream Moco are from Canada or New York or other places. Yeah. And the inclusivity is almost like ingrained and baked into their everyday life, which is something we're not used to.
Yes.
And so, but I've had my own experience with, I had a gentleman that I asked to bow dance when I was in grade school. And I was asked, are you going to take that Black boy to the dance? And I was like, at that age, I was like, I didn't know that was a problem.
Right.
And so I think it's really important for us to make sure we keep having that conversation.
Yes.
Of let's call out the people who are having that discussion or making those comments.
Yep.
And
it's interesting because to that point, and kind of going on the Stream Moco route, which we'll talk a little more about, it's the conversation around how do we make a difference and how do we push change. So as you're watching this, as we mentioned, like we film multiple episodes in a day. So this will be after that, probably a couple weeks after, but it's a couple days after Martin Luther King Day. And so in those conversations, there's always I would like to put a post out, and it's not saying there's anything wrong with you putting a post out, but one of the things that I also do a lot of work around, and I know Bree, you absolutely support as well, is a culture of inclusion. So I do a lot of work in the Pensacola community around that. And then also in my corporate company, I do a lot of work focused on that. Again, as we said, neither one of us are really good at not being outspoken humans. So when there's a problem, I learned very early on in my life and in my career, if there's a problem, find a solution to it. And so you'll notice as well, there's a purposefulness in every single guest that's chosen on Fearlessly Made You. And that's not to like toot our own horn or anything like that. It's saying that there are stories out there. And if you too would like to share your story, please
call us,
fearlesslymadeyou.com. You can find us on Instagram, Kristie Tobias. You can also buy my book. Amazon.com. But there's a purposefulness in the stories that are being told, and you'll notice that there is representation across the board. Again, if you followed Fearlessly Made You, we've had everyone from, people of color, women, men, people that identify as non-binary, people that are still trying to figure out what they identify, and it's on purpose because we don't go into moments that are different from us enough as people. And I think a lot of that fuels, I've grown up in the South, so I'm speaking from my experiences, but I travel a lot for my corporate job pre the COVID. The COVID is still happening, but I travel a lot for my corporate job. And so I've been able to go to I counted this, I think it's all except for 7 states. Yes, 7 of the United States, because for some reason they won't send me abroad.
Damn it.
I'm going once we clear up some things, but with the COVID. But in those travels, I get the opportunity to be in very large cities and to see so many things. And a lot of people don't get to see that. So what better way than to share share these stories through Fearlessly Made You, but also on a larger platform, which is going to the fun announcement. Drum roll, please.
Streamoko!
Cheers! We did so good on that. I'm so proud of us. Travis is dying. He's like, why?
You guys are going to get to meet Thomas Cantley, who is the CEO of Streamoko. I've had a very long relationship with Thomas. I've known him for years. He is a very interesting individual.
Yes.
He's from Nova Scotia in Canada, and we've been friends for. There. I heard it's beautiful.
Yeah. Adding that to the list.
In true Canadian fashion, he's like one of the nicest people on the planet.
They're so nice. Ryan Reynolds, can you hear me? That's whenever you say Canada, I just automatically go to Ryan Reynolds.
I didn't know he was from Canada.
Girl, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with Ryan Reynolds, though. He's like a perfect specimen.
He's beautiful. Also, Michael B. Jordan, can you hear me? Idris Elba?
Kevin Costner.
Y'all, there are a couple people in life I have a random obsession with, and then we're going to go back to Streamoko because we need to dedicate time to Streamoko. For the past year and a half, I've had a very strange obsession with Kevin Costner. Not back in the day.
There's nothing strange about that.
Well, it's the timing, because I'm watching all of the movies from before I was born, or all the movies that came out in the 80s and 90s. I just, y'all, I don't care if you judge. I really don't. So, Mr. Brooks, where he was a serial killer, I feel very connected to that movie.
That's a whole nother episode. We might need to talk about that.
He's beautiful. Anywho, but not from Canada. We're going to circle back around to beautiful humans and the light that they provide, which is Thomas, who is the founder and owner and CEO of Streamoko. You saw what just happened there? You're welcome. I circled.
That was a roundabout tangent.
I did so good.
Tangents are straight. This one was a roundabout.
It was in there. We're in there. That's what she said. Oh, no. Sorry. Thomas.
This is why we do one episode and one person at a time, because it can be a dangerous lane to take.
Living our best lives. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. So back to Streamoko, which again, having a great team around you, like Bree, who has wonderful connections and wonderful people, like she said, when they had the conversation about Fearlessly Made You being a great fit, that, as Bree was saying, making a difference, having our voices heard, and just being able to showcase Fearlessly Made You on a different platform. So it is a streaming platform, streammoko.com. If you follow me on the Instagram, don't you worry, you're about to see all of the Streamoko information. By the time this comes out, we will be streaming on Streamoko. And so Fearlessly Made You, the episodes that you guys have listened to, and if you are one of those few people who have been on YouTube and watched the episodes, you're now going to be able to stream the episodes, just like Netflix is a streaming service. So some of you that are trying to figure out what is streaming. When you aren't watching cable or local television, and you are on the Hulu or the Netflix or Tubi or whatever they're called, all of those, Streamoko is like that. So it is a streaming service.
Yes, but the best thing about Streamoko, so right now it's web-based, but it is going to be app-based. So Streamoko also, it's $3.99 for a subscription.
Yep.
And a third of their subscription goes to a charity that they work with. So I think they have 5 or 6 charities they work with. Yep. And you get to choose which one it goes to immediately. It goes straight, your subscription, it goes, a third of it goes to them. So it's called Streaming for Good. And so Thomas had this big dream. That's who he is. You'll get to meet him. He's a huge streamer. And he's got some really cool people that are working with him. But yeah, it was a really seamless fit. I think when he said, "Hey, I'm doing this streaming service," I was like, "I'm sorry, can we talk more about this? What are you talking about?"
Yes. But it is a great fit. And it is, again, as we were talking about this, it's the big news for us because, at the beginning of this conversation, we talked about the vision and, organically seeing how things progress. And this, I think one of the things that I've learned in life is when you try and force something, you're going to get the product of forcing it, which is usually not pretty great. It's a bunch of things pieced together. Not to say that there's anything wrong with piecing things together, but sometimes when you're in a moment where you are just trying to figure it out, step back, step away, let yourself kind of organically identify where you see the vision going, because the vision may look very different than what you thought. Go for it. I see you. I see Bree's head is turning.
this is the part where we
It's
talk
the
about how
helmet. I keep
Jesus
watching.
is really in control of your life.
Girl, faith. So it is,
Yes.
and it is something that anyone that's read my book, anyone that's ever met me, you'll know my faith is very important to me.
Yes.
And it always has been. And it looks different too. And I think that's important to say, is everyone's faith has to be your journey.
Right.
And the thing that I've learned throughout my life is my faith is so dynamic and transient. I was just having this conversation with my e-group of girls, Elevation Church. Shout out to all you ladies.
Hi.
KCCT, Shayna, all you girls. Sorry, not to just limit, but I love my e-group. You guys are amazing because we all come from different backgrounds and we all have totally different perspectives on life and totally different ways of looking at our faith. But it's still the same, and I identify as what I'll call a follower of Christ, or we call that a Christian because that's what the terminology is. But I don't identify as being part of a religion because I don't believe that's how Jesus lived his life, for me at least. And that's my perspective, right? Everyone has a different perspective. I think we limit ourselves to the box of what we can and cannot believe. And I found more now than ever, I ask questions. And I've got doubts too about so many things, but I know that my faith is always, and my belief is always number one. But question, ask the questions, do the research, think it through. I'm not trying to tell anyone follow exactly what I'm saying. Absolutely not, because I make a lot of really great mistakes in my life. And I do a lot of really ridiculous things because I'm an imperfect human. And if you've watched the episode with my brother, Josh, he said it wonderfully. You can't expect perfection from imperfect people. You're right, Josh, you are absolutely right. And you're welcome.
Now it's documented, just so everybody knows.
Documented.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
There's faith is an absolute stronghold in my life, and I don't think that there's a divinity of how Kristie and I communicate, how we work together. So, fun fact: Kristie and I are both Enneagram 3s.
Do you know what that means?
If you do, you know what's happening right now.
You have a lot of concerns about us sitting here together, probably.
Yes. Well, we're both overachievers, but also we both have moments where we overachieve so much that we have
What was
moments.
that, Travis? How many minutes do we have
Yes.
left?
I didn't catch that.
What was that?
2 minutes? Oh, we don't need more than that.
Travis was saying, stop talking.
I think there are moments where we have these moments of clarity, moments of being overwhelmed.
Yes.
I think that
Yes.
with being an Enneagram 3, you get overwhelmed because we are the type of people that put so much on our plate because we know we can handle it.
Or we think we can.
Think is a great word. So we can, but at the end of the day, you've got almost nothing left to give.
Yes.
And the first person that you talk to after you give everything that you have is the person who gets
The negative.
the grunt,
They do.
the negative side. And so I think
Unless
that
there's wine involved. And then it's just like the hey.
it's either really good or much worse. It just depends on
Also that. But it's so true though. And it's funny to that point, there's always, I every time, and I know you get asked this as well, how do you sleep? I don't right now, a lot.
Oh, I put a boundary down.
Yeah, I had to
Recently.
learn. I think that was the thing is, so Bree has her husband and her kids, her two adorable nuggets. Different conversation for a different day. And it's me and my dog Cooper. Shout out to Cooper.
What up, Coop?
What up, Coop? Anyone that's ever met Cooper, the sweetest baby in the world.
Yes.
He's at doggy daycare right now. It's pretty funny. But because of that, I tricked myself into thinking that, I have all this time in my day to dedicate to all the things. And I did that for a very long time, even when I was in a relationship for an extended period of time, which that's a whole different conversation. But what I had to realize, and that's been a slow, steady roll, specifically over the past year, with the book coming out, with releasing the podcast, with still working my corporate job, with trying to grow, the impact, and, and with doing a lot of the work that I get to do in the community, with, some of the personal coaching and things that I get to do with small businesses and individuals, and especially with kind of inclusivity. And as you hear me talking about that in your head, you're probably like, what in the hell? Like, how? There's not a how. That's not sustainable. And I hit multiple breakdown moments specifically last year. And I started going back to counseling, trauma counseling specifically, because I realized that there's so much healing that I haven't done within myself. And within that healing has come this need for worth and value. And I told you I was gonna be real honest and vulnerable with you. And it's why I wrote Fearlessly Made You. It's because I had to put all of that out there and be okay with that openness, but also be okay with, I still have a lot of work to do. And so your stop, I love that you have that stop. I'm working on that. But because the way that I've been functioning for so long exists, my stop is a slow roll, right? Like, I don't sleep more than 4 hours at a time because I've conditioned my body to live that way. Don't do that. That's not okay. Like, I say that like not as a brag or a boast. It's not okay. For those of you out there that are like burning the midnight oil and saying, I can handle this, you can't. Your body is going to shut down. Your mind is going to shut down, and that happened. So I found myself, actually, perfect example. So every Martin Luther King Day, and really just, I'm trying to be more purposeful with this, but whenever there's like a day that is very impactful to me, instead of like, for me, I'm not a huge parade person, because people are crazy, different conversation. But I enjoy having moments where I can reflect, and have moments of solitude. And so on Martin Luther King Day, I actually turned off I didn't have any electronics on. I didn't have like a TV on. I played my record player, which I guess is kind of an electronic, but old school.
So fun.
Oh my goodness. I got some records.
One of our best nights we played Lizzo's record.
Yes.
Long Hollow. Do you remember that?
Yes, we did. That was a magical night. That's when we were really going, oh yeah, that was fun. Yeah. But it's those moments where you can just be at peace with what you need. And I'm not going to lie, it was a little uncomfortable, like not having
it's always going to be.
But it's that consistency, right? Like you said it before, the consistency in being uncomfortable and the consistency in allowing yourself to grow. It's going to make you feel totally off, but it's going to be so much better in the long run if you can stop and pause and give yourself that peace in those moments to reflect. And that's why we're doing this episode. You're like, why are we still listening to them? Like, that's why we're doing this episode today, is to really allow ourselves the chance to breathe, to share with you a little bit more of our journey and be a little vulnerable about that, but also to talk about the great things that are happening and to encourage you, like, stay tuned, like keep staying engaged and listening in, and watching on Streamoko. You're welcome. Yeah. What was that I said? Streamoko?
I'll mention that there's something I learned recently. When you're in that mode of burning the midnight oil and you're turning the wheels and it feels like you're moving an emotion that is unstoppable. Yeah. When you don't take care of your body and you don't listen to your body, or deep down in your mind that you're having those moments of vulnerability, your nervous system will prey on the most vulnerable parts of you.
Oh, it's so true.
And so when I learned that and I thought about what's the most vulnerable part of me, it's that insecurity, that imposter syndrome, that people think differently of me than what I envision for myself. And it's always the exhaustion or overwhelming. Yeah. It has nothing to do. It's just my brain not being able to cope with all that I'm doing to myself. So it's almost like a self-sabotage. And so I think that if I could mention anything about that, I think really giving yourself the space to set boundaries. Yeah. Because we're fearless in the sake of like, we're not scared of, working our asses off, but also you have to give yourself limits or you run into a fiery car crash and you're driving.
That was intense. That escalated quickly.
A lot of self-awareness has happened in 2021.
But it's true. And so as we shift gears and share how much we appreciate you guys for not just tuning in, but for being so engaged on this Fearlessly Made You journey. For those of you that are continuously listening and now watching, you are part of the Fearlessly Made You crew. I so appreciate you. I know Bree, who, again, my creative master, appreciates you as well. But actually creative master director is probably the best way to put it. Let's use good terminology. But also, we always talk about at the end, balance as we've been sharing, like that stop and pause, but also favorite wines. And people ask me this, they ask me all the time because I talk about it. It's not really a favorite wine. It's just a wine that was in my wine fridge, but it's delicious. It's a Chardonnay. I call it my breakfast wine, as I said.
It's got a little tricycle.
It does, because every now and then you need a tricycle.
It looks just like this one over
It does
here.
look like this tricycle over here. Does it move? Oh, I don't know why we have a tricycle. Oh my gosh. So thank you for tuning in to this episode. That is so loud. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Fearlessly Made You. We will catch you on the next one. Have a great day. Kristie, out. Bree, also out. What is happening?
See ya.
Bye.